Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni, and this is my wonderful co-host, Danny. And today we will be continuing our Holidays in Human Design series by talking about Labor Day.
So Labor Day is the 3740. Does that fall? Labor Day falls
Yep.
in that, right?
Yeah, it's September 1st this year. So until September 3rd, we are in the 40 and 37, correct?
Well, I'm going to hold any further commentary until you read whatever comes next.
Perfect. Thank you to everyone who is watching and commenting, liking, subscribing, doing all the stuff. We love having you. And let's get into it. Labor Day, as Danny was saying, coincides with gates 40 and 37 and the crosses of planning and denial. So this is about deliverance and community. This is the tribal bargain and building for the community in exchange for support and saying no to the bargain until it's right and pausing collective's runaway progress.
It's that runaway progress is half of what Gate 40's nihilism is towards. That nihilism isn't towards the misses mostly, maybe for a minute, but that's it. It's towards the demands of all the sharing and all the extra stuff and all the extra work that comes along with it. Labor Day is the natural holiday for Gate 40. It says on Labor Day, I am your point of deliverance, that point of liberation between the work and the deliverance into the aloneness, which is the rest. Don't forget the ego demands rest. In fact, that's part of what the ego's all about. If it weren't for an ego, we wouldn't have an 8-hour workday, which is already too much half the time. We would still have 18 and 16-hour days and 12-hour days, right? That would just went on. But the ego said, nope. And it had the ego willpower to say no and mean it and stay there. And it gave us that. So in reality, that's a very awakened thing to do, less work when the 7th century way said, why less when we can have more work, out of slaves, no less. So Labor Day becomes the perfect honoring. It's almost like the creme de la creme cap on the affection that 37 would give. 37 says, not only do I love you, sweetie, and all that affection comes out, but here at the end of summer, here's a day for you, just for you. Labor Day is to Gate 40, just like Father's Day is to me, in a way. I mean, this is Gate 40's Father's Day. I would say Mother's Day, but 40s seems a lot more like the dude in this relationship. So, yeah. It's a pretty straightforward. This one is easy. I don't have to stretch hard to get to this at all, and find the intricacies that make it make sense. And suddenly it's, wow, look at that. That's right. That works. This was just obvious on its face. In court, we would call this prima facie evidence. It's right on its face. It's obvious what this was.
Yeah, it's 4037 is that negotiation of the bargain and that deal. So it's good for both parties. It's not just, I'm going to use you and abuse your labor and steal from you and all this like bad, corrupt stuff. It's like, no, I have this, you have this. If we put this together and we put our forces together and we work really hard, we're both going to end up with more. Like, that's a good deal. That's a good negotiation. And so it makes sense that like this holiday lines up with that in that sense of I worked my 40 hours, I get my weekends off, I get some vacation time, I get time for me to recharge, to be able to do more work and be content with it.
And if you think about it, on average, just because, we're material beings, we have to have stuff, right? And I'm not talking about fanciful stuff. I'm talking about regular stuff, food stuff, just regular stuff, electricity stuff, if possible, all of that. But we've been working all summer. I mean, we've been doing stuff. And the harvest time really isn't here. There's been harvesting, but the full rest of the harvest time is after Labor Day. So this is almost like a break in between. Another, example of deliverance and a point of transition from before to after. So after Labor Day, we do transition into harvest time. And Gate 40 is always facilitating the transition rather smoothly, I might say, because it facilitates the transition back into the doing the work and then back into the rest. And like I said, it demands its rest. And because it's in the world, in the nine-centered beings world, that's us, it's doing the work of letting us know that we need to transition out of work. We already know we have to transition into work. The material world demands that of us. But how about transitioning out? This is a great time for people to recognize, because of the wisdom and the emotional clarity that comes out of the 37 with in combination with the 40, to recognize all those times where it's like, I got to get another thing done, and you don't quite let the workday necessarily end, or you figured you had something burning you one last. No, no. How about not one last thing? How about one less thing? One less thing. And that's what Labor Day is all about. And 40 demands that. It wouldn't have been the same holiday had this opposition been in reverse and 37 was up in the sun. Now, would it? It just wouldn't quite read the same. It had to be here. And lo and behold, humanity picks a day called Labor Day. I
I
should
have some
know.
history. I do have some history on Labor
Please.
Day. Are you ready for that?
Yep.
So, Labor Day in the United States, celebrated on the first Monday in September, honors the contribution of workers and the labor movement. It originated in the late 19th century during the Industrial Revolution, a time of harsh working conditions, long hours, and low wages. The labor movement gained momentum as workers organized to demand better rights and protections. The first Labor Day celebrated was on September 5th, 1882, in New York City, organized by the Central Labor Union. Union leaders proposed a day to celebrate workers with parades and festivities. The idea spread, and by 1887, states like Oregon began recognizing it as a holiday. In 1894, President Grover Cleveland signed a bill making Labor Day a national holiday, partly in response to the violent Pullman strike, aiming to reconcile with the labor movement. Today, Labor Day marks the unofficial end of summer with celebrations like parades, barbecues, and community events, while still honoring workers' contributions to the nation's economy and society.
That's some really good history. 1882. So I don't know if you know. So let's just say this is an American holiday. Maybe some other countries have something like it on or about now because it is the end of summer. Um,
So, I can actually tell you now. So, many countries celebrate a version of Labor Day, often called International Workers' Day or May Day on May
May
1st.
Day.
Yeah,
Yes.
to honor workers, and the labor movement originates with the 1886 Haymarket Affair in Chicago, where workers rallied for an 8-hour workday, leading to global adoption of May 1st as a workers' holiday. Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, Russia, China, and many European countries, India, and Brazil. Some
Cool.
countries, like Japan, have labor related holidays with cultural twists, and it goes on and on. But
Laborers did not strike and revolt for an 8-hour day. The clarity of 3740 did, is the thing. So humanity, in case you were wondering, are you a little bit helpless, but to be what the design says, there you have it. May take a while, but a slow burn, right? Like an emotional thing should be. But I mean, that's what that is. That is literally the ego saying, no more. 13th Amendment saying there shall be no slavery or involuntary servitude. That's
yeah,
an
I mean,
amendment to the Constitution. A lot was happening with amendments, full on amendments to the Constitution.
so Emancipation Proclamation was 1863. The end of the
63.
Civil War was 1865, and the 13th Amendment was in 1865.
Cool. Then 1871, I believe, was the 14th Amendment, I think, because the 13th Amendment had to go into action and that freed the slaves. And then
1868.
okay, so the 14th Amendment came along shortly thereafter and gave rights and did all the things. And so think about what it would have done back then. It would have taken slavery and turned it into, well, we can't enslave them, but they still need a job. Let's work them to death. That would have been the old seven-centered conditioning, trying to get as much as it could, right? And they revolted. The nine-centered beings revolted. This is a beautiful story. I now love Labor Day, unlike I ever have, because I just realized all of this because you brought it up. You read the history. Thank you for that. That's
You're
amazing.
welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Well, that was a great time of deliverance out of slavery, deliverance out of a civil war where brothers killed each other, deliverance into a really unfair system for a little while the oligarchs and robber barons and giant owners still managed to work people to death as if they were slaves, right? Low wages, isn't that what you read? And that was still what was going on. A lot of change took place. Lots. 15 years to get to an 8-hour working day from what was once slavery. That's some pretty hasty action as it relates to a giant population making a move like that, wouldn't you say? I mean, evolutionarily, things don't move quickly, and 15 years is pretty quick. I'm sure they didn't think it was quick, year after year. But anyway, they gave it to
Hindsight.
us. Yeah, and it's funny, I had mentioned the 8-hour day, the whole thing surrounding that 8-hour day. That was the ego that did that. Thank you, ego and Gate 40. You're really one of my best friends, frankly. Well, 26 is all hot and fiery. 21 wants to tell me what to do. I love 51. We're always best friends. That's an instant electromagnetic, so I'm partial to it. So Gate 40, I have no reason to be partial to, yet I am. I appreciate its work. You know, there's something else to be said about Gate 40. If you have a partner in your life with a Gate 40, especially in a defined ego, and it's just hanging there, let them be a mule. That's what they do. I mean, they want to for at least a little while. They'll mule that stuff and be really happy doing it. And the bargain on the other side is so easy to fulfill. And you let it happen, and there is trust. And Gate 40 is said, I will mule no more than 8 hours a day. Right? So that was 1882. We got ourselves the 8-hour workday, essentially, or that's when it really kicked in, started
That
in
era.
the era. Right.
Yeah.
I'm down. Thank you, Gate 40, and I can't think of much else to say about it.
Thank you, Gate 40. Well, thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who's watching and liking, subscribing, commenting, all this stuff. And we will catch you on the next time.
Absolutely. Love you, everyone. Take it easy.